Hi there. You know, I am constantly working with balsa, whether it's building a wing for a trainer here or it's repairing something that's had a little bit of a bumpy landing. And as that part of that process, I'm always using strips of balsa, whether it's like this 1/4 inch square or just a piece of cap strip for the tops and bottoms of the wing ribs. And up until now, I've never owned a balsa stripper. I've seen these small, fairly inexpensive balsa strippers, and I've heard good things about them and bad things. I've never really taken the plunge, never really liked the look of them. And I've always used just a meter, straight edge, and a scalpel, which has always worked really well for me. But you have to be so careful when you're cutting thicker stuff, even like this 1/4 inch, to get the edges nice and square. And if you're doing butt joints on 10mm or 3/8 balsa, then sometimes you have to sand them or plane them just to get them square, to get that nice join. Anyway, I saw a Slec Balsa stripper online, and it's a little bit more involved than some of those very simple balsa strippers, but I heard or read some really good things about them, and I've heard good things about them. So I decided to take the plunge, and so this is a bit of a review, having a look at the Slec Balsa stripper. And I'll just zoom in now and I'll show you what you've got. I'll set it up and we'll see how it works. Right, well, let's see what we get for our money. And I paid about £15 sterling for this directly from Slec. It comes wrapped in this kind of card piece of instructions, which is quite useful because it tells you how to set it up and the type of blades you've got. So that's kind of useful to have. And we get a aluminium channel. This is a metre long, and it's got sticky on the back. We just peel this off and stick it onto a board to use the stripper. Now, in the bag of bits, we get a handle, blade holder, which fits in the channel by the look of it. And I was quite surprised when I looked at this first time, because it's got a little bit of a wobble, but it sits up square very nicely, and I think you'll get a lovely square cut with that. You have to put quite a bit of force to take it off the square. Now, you get a number of spacers, which, as I understand it, these individually or a combination of these add up to the range of most imperial or metric sizes that you would need, which is really good to know that it's both imperial and metric. And we've got a cover which I guess holds the blade onto the spacer, and the blade that's used is just a Swan Morton blade, and in the instructions it says it's a Swan Morton Super Tall V blade, so should be readily available, and you don't have to keep going back to Slec. You can get one from other sources. Well, as we saw, it comes with a 1 metre long piece of aluminium guide rail, which we need to fasten to a board to make this work. Now, I bought myself a melamine shelf, and this is 1.2 metres long, and it is, what is it? It's about 208 inches wide. So this is an ideal size because we can fit the strip to it, the aluminium guide, and it will leave a little bit of overhang either side should we find the need to clamp it to the bench, which we might do if we're cutting something that's quite hard and quite thick. We might find it just slides a little bit, but that's just trial and error. Now, most of the balsa that I get is 3 foot long, so what, 915mm, so it fits nicely within that board. So hopefully you can see that on the camera. So I'm going to get this set up now, and we're going to cut some cap strips for a patterns plane I'm building, which is, I think they're 3/32 thick and 1/4 inch wide. And also I thought I would cut myself some more of this 1/4 inch square stock, because you use quite, I use quite a lot of this, so you can never have too much. So I'll get this set up now and we'll see how it goes. Right, well I found this a little bit tricky to set up at first, to get the blade in just right. So I'll show you how I'm going to do it. I've selected these two spacers, which give me a 1/4 inch, or approximately a 1/4 inch. I'll have to measure it afterwards and see how close we are. So I don't need these spacers for the moment, so we'll get those out of the way. So we've got the two spacers and then the final cover. Now if we turn this cover over, there's a couple of locating lugs on the back here, and if we pick up the blade, the locating lugs are there to hold the blade nice and secure in there. Hopefully you can see that. Now the trick, or the problem, or the trick, whatever, is how to get those locating lugs located properly. If we put on the spacers like this, it's got the two spacers, we then put the blade in, and then we put on the cover. Now if we look at that, that is not located very well with the, it's not located in those lugs. So we can try and move the blade with our finger, but the only bit to grip really is the blade. We can use a pair of long nose pliers, which I don't find particularly helpful. So the way I've worked out to do it is to take the cover off, take the last spacer off, and we will always use a spacer with this. It doesn't work without a spacer. So what I would suggest is that we use the cover and we locate the blade with the lugs like that. We then put the spacer on top, and that is held now as it should be, and then we put these on together as a complete assembly like that. There, and now, yep, that blade is located within the lugs nicely. So I think doing it that way is probably a good way to go. So let me get these on and we'll see how it works. You saw how I set the blade up. I found that actually what I still needed to do with these loose, so it was still holding the blade in the lugs, is just pull it down a little bit to make sure it was as far down as it would go to get to the bottom of the cut, to cut the balsa right the way through, or as good as right the way through. Now I've had a play about cutting some bits, and to get the size for 1/4 inch I had to change the spacers. I originally measured the spacers and put in the ones I thought equated to 1/4 inch, and actually it was undersized. So the direct measurement of the spacers don't seem to directly relate to what you cut. So it's a little bit of trial and error. So I think what I'll probably do is end up numbering the spacers and working out what combination I need for the sizes I need, like 3/16, 1/4 inch, and then next to that putting spacer 1, spacer 3 and spacer 4, or something like that anyway. Now you pull this towards you to cut. I've only done little bits at the moment, so we'll try this now on here. So we'll locate and this is really the first big piece of balsa I've cut, like I say, just cutting little pieces. So we place that up against there and we draw this towards us. There we go. Let's see what that's like. Hasn't cut all the way through at the start of the finish, but as good as. And there we have quite a nice piece of balsa. And let's measure that and see what we've got. And that's 1/4 inch. And does that marry up with the 1/4 inch I bought from the store? Yep, it does. So that seems to be pretty good. Let's have another go. Oh, and let's have a look, see if the edge is square. There's a slight angle on that, a little bit of a, which is just going, leaning in a little, leaning that way very slightly. So have another go. Again, not cut through all the way. Maybe I need to have a second go with that, or just adjust the blade down a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to adjust the blade just to pull it down and make sure it hasn't moved. Maybe I didn't tighten up the screws properly. There we go. So it does take some setting up this, but hopefully once we get it right, it will be right. Oh, I can hear that cutting through to the melamine now, I think. Yeah, there we go, and another one. One more on this size balsa. Yeah, I can hear that catching the melamine now. And again, another piece. And those edges look pretty square, so I'm quite pleased with that. What I will try and do now is just cut some 1/4 inch. I'll just get some. Right, well, that last piece of balsa, the 3/32 or 2.4mm, was relatively soft because I'm going to use it for cap strips on a patterns plane. But this is a little bit harder because I'm likely to use it for spars or something like that. So this is 1/4 inch, relatively hard balsa, not really hard, but we'll see how this cuts. Let me just move that into camera a little bit more there. Right, okay, let's see how this cuts. Now we'll give that a second pass. I think it's gone most of the way through. There we go. Yep. And oh, that's a nice. I don't know whether that shows up on the camera, but that's a nice square cut. Compare it to the one we bought, and it feels just the same. Let's cut another one. Oh, that was nice. I like that. So get that square. There we go, and another one. What was the edge like on that? Yeah, again, that's cut that quite nice and square. Right, well, I've had fairly limited use of this now. I've literally more or less filmed everything I've done on it, and I've got these 3 1/4 inch pieces of stock here, and I've got some nice bits of 3/32 for my cap strips. And they've cut it really nice. It's lovely square edges, and if you stand up the piece of balsa on the board that I've been cutting, stands upright. It's not perfectly square, but it's pretty approximate. It's close enough, and it was easy to use. Once you got used to drawing it towards you, holding the balsa didn't slide on the melamine board, which I thought it might do, and the board didn't slide on the table. So all in all, it was quite nice to use, and I'm really pleased with the results. A lot easier than using my straight edge and scalpel, certainly. Now, it was it was quite easy to hold it upright and to get that square cut. I didn't feel that there was a lot of leeway either side. Now, as far as setting it up, it was a little bit fiddly. It's going to be a learning curve just trying to work out with the spacers, but I think once you get used to what spacers you need for the cut you need, that'll be fine. And I think getting used to just putting the blade in and out again is a little bit fiddly, but probably no more fiddly than some of the other balsa cutters. It is a little bit more expensive than some of the other balsa cutters you can get, and as I said earlier, I've never had a balsa stripper, so I've never used any of those. But I'm really pleased with this, and I'm pleased with the purchase. If I went back in time and knew what I know now, I would still get this. So anyway, that's a quick look at the Slec Balsa stripper. I hope you found that useful, and you can make up your own mind, you know, what you think about this and whether it's worth that extra investment. And I guess on a final point, it does leave you with a board that you have to store somewhere, and it can stand up in a corner, so it's no big deal. It is literally just a board with a piece of channel on it. So to me, that's not an issue. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found that useful.